Hi everybody, in this video we are going to call a migrated program or a program that is in migrated code from a service. We created this our process program in our previous video in the dev demo namespace that is an endless loop that searches for a file in the IO folder, deletes it, and writes the products to the result folder over there. Let's go and configure this to run in the service. So here we have the service that we worked on previously. And let's go ahead and just take this away because we don't need this anymore. Because here we're going to put our actual logic from the migrated code. So clean up. Great. First thing we need is to reference our project. So we're going to say add a reference. We're going to browse. And we're going to go to the bin directory and select env, Firefly, and the different projects that we want, Northwind in this case. Perfect. We'll also always need to have system Windows Forms. Perfect. Of course, Windows Forms is not actually running, you just need the types for it for some kind of reference stuff. Great, so we've added our references. And now we need to start the code. Well, when a normal new Windows Forms executable starts, it actually has the program. Okay? And then it performs these set of operations one by one. So we need to get these set of operations executed when we are starting our service. So let's have a look. Visual style and send compatible text rendering are meaningless. There are things to do with Windows Forms. Version 10 compatible and start processing format and global defaults, all of those are relevant to the specific codes that you've migrated. So you need them. So we're going to put them over here. Next, we're going to need to load the INI, which I'll talk about more in a second. Here it tells me that it's not familiar with date, so I'm going to say please use using Firefly box, and he will add this using statement over here, which is also great. And we also need to add two more lines. One is env common suppress dialogues, because we don't want to have any UI. And we need to also say the same to Firefly box context current set non-UI thread. Perfect. These two make sure that screens will not open and string will not work. We'll probably run it again in the thread itself, but let's do that then. Great. So to set up our project, let's review the changes that we've made. Okay, configure setup, suppress dialogues, and set non-UI thread so we won't get any screens or any message boxes. Version 10 compatible, start processing, global default, and the INI. Let's talk for a second about the INI. Here we set the INI without any path, so it will try to open it in the working directory. But let's direct it to somewhere else. So let's go and direct the INI to the INI that is in the Northwind project. So I'll right-click it and say copy. No, I wouldn't want to copy the full path, so I'll go to containing folder, and I will copy the path to this folder. Great. So I'll say load the INI from this place. Now, of course, you can load it anywhere you want, configure it anywhere you like it. This is just me taking a shortcut. Perfect. So again, to recap the setup, suppress dialog, non-UI thread, version 10 compatible, all of these things that exist in your specific program code. Global default, again, your code needs it. It really depends on your code, the flags that you're going to see it. And load the INI. Great. Set start up info. Perfect. Next thing we want to do, we're going to configure the INI, because I don't know if you remember from my list over here, but there's a saying here that general error log file is your friend. Again, you don't have user interface, it will be difficult to figure out what's going on. So for that, there's a flag in the INI, which you can say to it, let's find it, general error log file, and we can give a name over here. So I'll say C Northwind IO service error.log. Let's save it over here, and then we'll get this file created if we run into any error. Great. So configure error log file. Cool. So we've set up our code. We've loaded our code, we loaded our environment. Now previously we used a separate thread to run the program, and we'll do something similar over here. Just instead of creating a new thread, we'll do it with a helper function. So we'll say env common run on new thread. So this will open a separate thread and do all of this in it. We will call this one again here, just to be sure. And then we'll do try and catch. And the reason for that is that we want to make sure that any exceptions that pops will get written to the error log. Okay, so this is how you write to the log file. And this will get written to the general error logs that we described before. So we can have a try catch over here and have a report whenever error is happening. Great. And to that, the operation that we actually want to do, all of this wrapping is around simply calling the program. So let's just say new Northwind, that's our namespace, that's our project, dev demo, that's our program, dot our process, dot run. That's it. And now we can run it. Or hopefully now we can run it. So here we are now, stopping the process, building it, and starting the process. And we get a build failure because the file is still locked. This may happen sometime. Don't worry about it, just do it manually. Stop the service. Great. It stopped. See if you can delete it, and if you can't, just stop it using Test Manager or something like that. But let's go ahead and delete everything over here. Great. So sometimes because we are doing stop, start, build, whatever, it may have a bit of glitches. So don't worry about it too much. It's the fun of doing something new. Perfect, we've built it, we've started it. We can see here in our services logs that we have the code running, great. Now let's create the trigger file. And we see a result file, but we see that it's empty. And so we'll try to think, why is it empty? Why might it be empty? What have we done wrong? What did we do to deserve this? And, oh, the log file comes up to tell us. Let's open it and see. And we can see here that it tells us that error opening connection Northwind, because cannot open database Northwind requested by the login failed for the user anti-authority system. Which means that this user doesn't have an authority to access the database. This goes to our checklist and goes to the next topic in it, which says service user. You are running on a different user, so you need to make sure that that user has access to your folder and database. Make sure you can log into the database using that account. And it shows the system account because previously in the service, we told the service in the project installer to account to the local system account. Okay, to use that account. And that's a good account to use for a service that uses files and everything around it. You might want to use network account and stuff like that, but this is the right thing for you. What we'll do in our case is we'll change the INI to use an SQL Server username password, which will allow us to operate. So we're going to go over here to the database and say here that we want to use SA master key. We're going to run the Windows application to see that it works. Okay, great. Now, because we are reading the same INI, so that's not really a problem. We'll go back to our Northwind service. We built it, stopped it, started. Let's see if now it works. We'll delete the log. And we'll change result to trigger. And hope to see what's going on now. Let's just make sure that we rebuild the service. Perfect. Let's go look at our directory and we have the result.txt. Let's delete it and do it again. New text file, trigger in English.txt. We'll wait a second and we have the result that has the data from our database. So if you sum it up, after you understand a bit about services and computer rights and folder rights and database rights, and once you have the proper background to do this task, It's kind of simple. You just need to run a new thread and run the process that you wanted to run. But just like many of these things, the first time you do it is problematic, and you don't do it that often, so it's just annoying to start. The biggest takeaway I want you to take from this set of videos is A, use services. It's great. They're a bit pain to configure the first time, but when they work, they're amazing. And B, when you're trying to do new things, experiment on them independently of your production code, no matter if it's migrated code or any other code, because you only understand them when you run them autonomously, and then integrating them is a lot easier. So do that. And another huge takeaway is Google is your best friend. Simply Google things, and the results will come to you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Let us know if you think of more videos like this that you would like to see. And cheers!